Today, on a Hamster and Gretel episode of the Danville discussion.
More Detective Snowball after these messages.
When you've just pulled out of bed and you've already got the munchies. Taco Crunchies, Taco Crunchies, Taco Crunchies. Taco Crunchies, when you like your tacos sweet and drenched in milk.
Great, now that jingle's gonna be stuck in my head for 3 days.
It's really catchy.
Hello everybody, and welcome to the Danville discussion, a podcast about all things related to Phineas and Ferb and beyond. I'm your host, Caleb Dirksen, and some of you may know me from my self-titled YouTube channel, the one and only place for some web series related to animation such as Captain Toonland Reviews, formerly known as Caleb Reviews. If this is your first time listening to us, well, let me just say that the title will explain it all for you if you don't know what it is. Well, this is a podcast where I talk about shows set in the Dan Povenmire and or Jeff Swampy Marsh universe, or Dwampyverse for short. Specifically, I'm going through each episode of either Phineas and Ferb or Hamster and Gretel, searching for cultural or in-universe references, fun facts, and stuff like that, and then finally I will end things off by giving a roller coaster rating to each episode. So, for today, I am going to be looking into episode 12 of Hamster and Gretel, which will contain the following segments: Friday Night Fright and the Earworm. If you want to check out more episodes of the Danville discussion, then head on to anchor.fm/Caleb-Dirksen and it'll take you directly to the Danville discussion website on Spotify for creators. So, the first thing I want to do before we get started is go into some new listener feedback.
We can't get to our song till we deal with our fan mail. Think you could help?
Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh! Great, you can start with this bag.
From Spotify, I got yet another comment on episode 6A in which I looked at the theme song Takeover and the first 3 Chibi Tiny Tale shorts for Hamster and Gretel. This one being from Nicole Greenewald, who says, Danville told me that only one pickle would be the transition to the next shot, but it didn't. Well, the thing about that is that I recently rewatched the theme song Takeover with Kevin, and I apologize for that mistake, and I assumed that I saw one pickle growing and filling the screen when all the pickles came out of the jar. But now looking back at the short, I realized that it was a whole bunch of pickles flying and transitioning to the next shot of Kevin cleaning up the pickle mess and feeding Hamster the pickles. I pretty much made myself look like a bit of a fool in that part of the episode, and I apologize for that little mistake, but that's nothing. So, I think this calls for the use of the mistake stinger right now.
Ah, look at this! Every week,
Caleb
makes the same mistake, and I end up getting my neighbor's HS Weekly.
Speaking of assumptions, I bet Ming is gonna show up any second now to disapprove of my past assumption.
Now, you know what they say about assuming. It makes an ass out of you and Ming.
Ming?
Did Kane just say ass?
Hi, I'm Ming, and I really don't appreciate what your assumptions have done to my reputation.
But yeah, thanks for that comment, Nicole, and as always, I appreciate whatever constructive criticism you may have. And that's pretty much the only new piece of listener feedback that I didn't respond to previously, so thanks to Nicole for her comment on Spotify. You are awesome. Now we can actually get into the review of this Hamster and Gretel episode. Both of these segments first aired on Saturday, November 19th, 2022 on Disney Channel. And our first segment we're going to be getting into now is Friday Night Fright. And this episode was written by Amanda Domenech, storyboarded by Heather Gregerson, Eric Kling, and Alan Delmar Oka, and directed by Amber Tornquist-Hollinger and Eric Kling. The episode starts after school, where Fred declines Kevin's invitation to the Grant Gomez family game night due to helping Hiromi with an interview for the school newspaper, in part due to Fred's nihilistic sense of humor, according to Hiromi, while Gretel is getting ready for family game night and also fantasizes about punching Kevin through 4 walls.
You better bring your A game, Kev. I'm taking that trophy tonight.
That's big talk coming from someone who's only won. Oh wait, that's right. You've never won a game. Oh, so sad. Are you fantasizing about punching me through 4 walls again?
Maybe.
The image scene transition, which shows Kevin and Gretel in competitive mode, goes straight to the Eastside High School cafeteria, and while Fred and Hiromi work, they overhear Principal Thunderberg talking about a seemingly evil plot and decide to investigate as reporters. We're then brought to the Grant Gomez house by an image scene transition with one of Inga the Lunch Lady's guacamole sauerkraut cupcakes, where Kevin and Gretel are asked to hand their phones over to Carolina to prevent cheating during the game, and while the game is going on, Hamster, who is in Gretel's bedroom, is reading a book but is distracted by the noise downstairs, so he closes the door and starts listening to a game night meditation/therapy session. Following an image scene transition of Kevin wearing a double six hat as seen during the game, Hiromi and a reluctant Fred follow Principal Thunderberg in secret until they come across a crate containing animatronic replicas of the school's mascot, which are mistakenly activated when Hiromi takes a picture of them. Luckily, they find shelter in a classroom courtesy of Inga, and another image scene transition of the evil scheme animatronics leads back to family game night, where the family tries to balance broomsticks on their heads until Kevin loses balance and has to move back 3 spaces. We then cut back to the school where Fred and Hiromi orchestrate a plan to defeat the animatronics after Fred fails to get a hold of Kevin. However, they find that the animatronics have turned off the sprinkler system, forcing them to search for another valve to reactivate it. Inga volunteers to go, only to get captured by the animatronics, and after Fred fails to call yet again, Hiromi then steps forward to take her place with Fred's guidance, only to get captured as well. Back at the house, Hamster notices Fred's many missed calls and notifies Gretel, who reluctantly disqualifies herself by claiming she was using her phone to cheat, allowing her to go to the school to rescue Fred and Hiromi. An image scene transition of Kevin with a paint-by-numbers clown painting leads back to the school where, as the animatronics prepare to dunk Hiromi in a razor blade-clad toilet, Fred intervenes by using her gymnastics skills to access a hard-to-reach sprinkler valve to activate the sprinkler system and shut the animatronics down, to the song Just Another Friday Night, because she learns from Hiromi that it used to be a school for stilt performers until their stilts and the gym caught on fire, as shown in the photo below the one with the cheerleaders. She is briefly successful, but the animatronics are able to activate waterproof programming. Just as they are about to attack Fred and Hiromi, Hamster and Gretel arrive to defeat the animatronics, with Gretel angry that they have ruined her chances of finally winning family game night. After the animatronics are destroyed, Principal Thunderberg reveals that Evil Scheme is an acronym for Eastern Valley Intramural League Sparring Contest of High School Electronic Mascots, with the last E being a typo, and that they were actually meant to be entered in a robotics competition the school qualified for, and hired a new physics teacher to investigate a glitch that causes them to become evil after having their picture taken. Fred and Hiromi share a high five in celebration of their efforts, while Kevin, who has been overzealous during game night, loses to Carolina, and Gretel once again fantasizes about punching Kevin through 4 walls, and that is the end of Friday Night Fright.
I guess we both lost. You more than me, but still.
I still had a win today, but next month, you're going down.
Are you fantasizing about punching me through 4 walls again?
Maybe.
Going on to the references for this episode, there are some cultural references. The title of the episode could possibly be a play on the 1990 nonfiction book Friday Night Lights, A Town, a Team, and a Dream by H.G. Bissinger. I never read that book before though. Next up, Hamster is in Gretel's room reading the book Critique of Pure Reason by Immanuel Kant during the Grant Gomez family's game night, and what I learned upon looking it up on the wiki page for this episode is that this is a real book published in 1781 in German and then translated into English many years later. The next reference is when the plumber animatronic breaks through the doors with a fist and shouts, "Here's Plummy," while peering into the opening, as Fred and Hiromi close off the gymnasium after activating the animatronics. And that one is an obvious reference to that scene during the climax of the 1980 Stanley Kubrick horror film adaptation of The Shining, in which an insane Jack Torrance breaks through a bathroom door with an axe, stating, "Here's Johnny," while peering into the opening.
Here's Johnny!
One of the most iconic moments in film history, and parodied several times, including in Finding Nemo when Bruce the Shark breaks open the vault door while chasing Marlin and Dory after the smell of Dory's blood causes him to go savage.
Here's Brucey!
And most notably in the Simpsons episode Treehouse of Horror 5 with the segment The Shinning, including the scene where Homer goes insane after having been without TV or beer for a while and parodies the Here's Johnny scene only to end up in a wrong part of the hotel while trying to hunt down the rest of the Simpson family.
Here's Johnny! Don't! David Letterman!
Hi, David. I'm Grandpa.
Don't! I'm Mike Wallace, I'm Wally Schaefer, and I'm Ed Bradley. All this and Andy Rooney tonight on 60 Minutes!
And lastly, the antagonist of the episode being a couple of animatronics at night is similar to the premise of the indie horror video game franchise Five Nights at Freddy's, which I have seen a lot of stuff for but haven't really played. And for some handy tools out of my toolbox of Friday Night Fright supplies, this episode has the most image scene transitions in Hamster and Gretel, with a total of 7, including a very smug Gretel, which is used to transition to Fred and Hiromi entering the gym, and Fred and Hiromi doing a high five surrounded by banners that say Team Hiromi, which is used to transition to the final round of Family Game Night. It's revealed here that Hamster has a series of calming playlists that he uses in various situations. The playlists include Soul Soothing, Workout Jams, Game Night, Existential Dread, Wake to be Woke, with the KE part at the end of woke mostly hidden underneath the bottom of the screen, and one playlist that's completely indecipherable. And when the episode title was first revealed on the Disney General Entertainment content press site by the end of October 2022, it was erroneously referred to as Friday Night Fight rather than Friday Night Fright. I too have mistakenly read it like that when I went over those titles at the end of episode 6B, where I talked about the third episode of Chibiverse, The Great Chibi Mix-Up. But then again, that was because I was reading it off of the Disney Beat back when I was on Twitter, because they sourced those titles from the Disney General Entertainment content press site, so it's more the fault of that article, which means I don't really need to use the mistake stinger again here. Now with that done, I'm going to get into my thoughts on the episode. I will say first off that the story is pretty good, and one of, if not my favorite thing about it, is the dynamic between Fred and Hiromi. It works really well here with how they work together to solve the mystery of the animatronics, and some comedic scenes such as when Fred asks where Hiromi learned how to pick locks as she's trying to unlock the gym door with a hair clip and a paper clip, and Hiromi answers that she learned it from Juvie, which at first sounds like she learned it when she was sentenced to juvenile hall at one point, but in reality, she learned it from someone named Juvie Davis, whose dad is a locksmith, and Fred is like, cool. Plus the Team Hiromi image scene transition after Hiromi said that with a high five. There's also a good line delivery by Valerie Bryman as Inga when she comes by the table with the guacamole sauerkraut cupcakes after Fred and Hiromi leave, notices their work still on the table, and says, "Teenagers have no manners," in a serious tone.
Teenagers have no manners.
Like, that delivery of Inga's line right there, good job. And there are some other enjoyable and funny moments, like the part where Hamster is listening to his therapy sessions to keep calm during Family Game Night, that reference to The Shining where the plumber animatronic peers through the door and says, "Here's Plummy," and some of the moments during family game night, such as Gretel's joke in the truth or dare scenario where she picks truth and answers the question of what the last lie was that she told her mom, and she says she's never told any lies to her, but what she just said was the last lie she told Carolina, resulting her to be moved forward 10 spaces on the board. And Carolina replies, "I should be mad, but I'm really impressed." And when Gretel learns from Hamster that Fred is under attack by the animatronics at school, she pretends to be on her phone cheating and goes up to her room just so she and Hamster can transform into their superhero identities, because the point of their roles as superheroes is that they have to keep their identities a secret, and they can't reveal to Gretel's parents that they're superpowered crime fighters, otherwise they most likely wouldn't be allowed to do hero work again. But the jokes that really got me the most here are the visual gags where Gretel fantasizes about punching Kevin through 4 walls at the beginning and end of the episode, where at first it seems like Gretel is actually punching Kevin through 4 walls, but then it cuts back and Kevin is still fine and questions about whether Gretel is fantasizing about doing those things, and she answers, "Maybe." Snipple once again provided the animation for this first segment, and as usual, their animation for the show isn't the best, but still decent in my opinion. But with this episode, they've really seemed to show how much they've improved since the first episode. Mainly the Just Another Friday Night action sequence where Fred uses all her gymnastics skills to get up to the sprinkler valve while dodging the plumber animatronic's plunger darts, which is one of the best animated scenes in the show, let alone by Snipple. I know some of you may still not like what Snipple has done for Hamster and Gretel, or even with Phineas and Ferb's recent episodes, but this is one of the cases where I applaud Snipple for their efforts with these shows. Also, did I forget to mention that the song itself is a banger? It's even on the soundtrack album. Plus, I also liked the glow effects from Gretel's phone when Hamster notices the 101 missed calls, the way the animatronic's eyes glow yellow and green when they turn evil, and the text design for Gretel's super punch, which in this case was Animatronic Blubber Punch! If I would have to point some criticisms to the animation, aside from some of the usual ones, there was at least one time where Dave's mouth looked a little offbeat with the dialogue when he was saying, "That was 5 years ago when the rules had not been established before the family gave their phones to Carolina." And after Hiromi takes a second picture of the animatronics, the pockets on the back of her pants are missing. Overall, a great episode, and the Fred and Hiromi dynamic really carried it for me. Well worth a watch. Okay, now with Friday Night Fright done, let's move on to our next segment and talk about the Earworm. And the Earworm was written by Valerie Bryman, storyboarded by Rufino Roy Camacho II, Tammy Manis, Susan Buchheim, and Villamor M. Cruz, and directed by Trisha Garcia. This one begins with a Grant Gomez family watching TV late one night until they come across a commercial for the breakfast cereal Taco Crunchies. Kevin says the cereal's jingle is gonna get stuck in his head for 3 days with how catchy it is, but then Dave reminds the family of the song from the It's a Big Big World ride at Giddyland being even catchier, much to the rest of the family being annoyed and unamused by that song. Then Dave and Carolina talk about another Earworm song they actually like, which is their favorite romantic song, and Kevin and Gretel go up to bed. While Hamster and Gretel are sleeping, however, the Taco Crunchies jingle gets stuck in their heads and hypnotizes them into stealing from various stores night after night, including a donut shop and a dry cleaner outlet, and this raises Kevin and later Fred's suspicions. One night, they track them down as they're being hypnotized into sleep stealing again, this time robbing a bank, and it leads them to the lair of a villain called the Earworm, a TV hairstylist who used the DNA of Hamster and Gretel to hypnotize them into executing his plan to become rich and famous. He orders the hypnotized superhero duo to tie Kevin and Fred up before telling them his backstory and plan, and then to throw them out the window of his lair after hearing about Kevin calling the cops on his phone with his nose, but they retaliate when they are told by a police officer that they can counter the effects of the Earworm's jingle with another catchy song. In this case, Kevin, Fred, and the police officer start to sing It's a Big, Big World despite Kevin previously not liking the song, and this works, allowing Hamster and Gretel to defeat the Earworm, not with a punch, but by Hamster stepping on his tail and tripping him. Hamster then destroys the remote the Earworm was using to hypnotize the heroes, and the Earworm himself is arrested by the police. Meanwhile, Dave and Carolina are still in a days-long argument about the correct lyrics to their romantic song, and the feud leads to them agreeing to disagreeing, which ultimately drives a minor wedge in their relationship. However, Kevin informs them that they can simply look the lyrics up on the internet, which they do, restoring their love for each other, and ending off this episode.
Carolina, if those were the actual lyrics to our song, the songwriter would be in jail.
Well, maybe he's in jail.
You guys do realize that you can just look up the lyrics online, right?
What a great idea!
I can't believe it. It really is about warts on your eyes. You were right.
I told you.
And that makes me love it even more. And that songwriter should go to jail.
I agree to agree, mi amor.
Now, when it comes to the references, the only reference I was able to find was a cultural reference in which the song It's a Big, Big World is a parody of the song It's a Small World from the Disney ride of the same name, and the ride itself looks identical to the It's a Small World ride, as they're both boat rides where you tour around and meet audio animatronic dolls of various international cultures as they unite in peace and harmony and sing about their world. Even the theme park the It's a Big, Big World ride is located, Giddyland, is a parody of Disneyland, where the actual It's a Small World ride originated when it first opened in 1966. And no, the It's a Big, Big World ride is not to be confused with the existing puppet-based PBS Kids show of the same name, which is completely different. I've been on the It's a Small World ride myself, having gone to Walt Disney World a couple times, where it was at the Magic Kingdom, and admittedly the ride itself looked incredible. All the animatronics and their costume designs were well made, plus they moved pretty well, and I could tell that the Disney team, including Mary Blair, really put a lot of effort into this ride. Plus the song composed by the Sherman Brothers is well written with its world peace message, but with how repetitive the song is, I kind of feel a bit the same way about it that the Grant Gomez family besides Dave do about the It's a Big, Big World song in the episode.
It's a big, big world, but there's lots and lots of us. If it was any smaller, we would be superfluous.
No! I thought we agreed to never speak of this song again.
In other words, this may be an unpopular opinion, but the It's a Small World song is kind of a mixed bag for me. Good lyrics and message, but I can see how the sheer repetition can get on some people's nerves. For some handy tools out of my big toolbox of Earworm supplies, the song Overload the Grid, which the Duck Boys performed in the pilot episode Empower Failure, can be heard on the minivan radio as Kevin is driving Gretel to school, briefly before Veronica Hill comes in with her news report.
This is Veronica Hill interrupting your terrible choice in music with a special report that is far beneath my pay grade.
The image scene transition in this episode, which is used to cut to the second Taco Crunchies mantra in which Hamster and Gretel are hypnotized to steal from the dry cleaners, is similar to the one from Okie Dokie, where it happens when Gretel is horrified to see Okie, the tree, getting destroyed by the meteor, except the differences are that Hamster and Gretel are hypnotized instead of looking sad, and the music is rather distorted to fit the mood. This is the second episode in which characters are hypnotized by a villain. First there was Cheer Cheer Bang Bang, in which the Eastside cheerleaders, Kevin, Hiromi, and some other Eastside high school students were hypnotized by Coach Haggerty, and in this one, Hamster and Gretel fall victim to the Earworm's hypnosis. And the events from episode 11B, Sleepover with the Enemy, were mentioned in this episode, where Kevin was talking to Fred about the first sleep stealing incident that happened last night, and Fred mention that Hamster and Gretel fought a little girl, Tina, with a rocket-powered gerbil.
And he said they were flying.
You could have led with that, but that doesn't mean anything. Didn't we just fight a little girl with a rocket-powered gerbil?
Yeah, I guess.
Keep me posted if anything else happens.
Alright, so now we can get to my thoughts on the episode. Now, this is another episode I enjoyed quite well, just like the previous segment. There were plenty of things I liked in here, starting with the Earworm himself. He as a villain is well written and funny in my opinion, and Adam Rose gives a good performance and greatly captures his funky and snobby attitude. The only other thing I know Adam Rose from is back in my childhood when I watched Playhouse Disney's PB&J Otter, in which he was the voice of Peanut Otter back when he was very young. The actor, I mean. He also has a solid backstory in which he was a hairstylist on a TV talk show that Hamster and Gretel were on before getting their DNA sample and going on to be a jingle writer after graduating, ultimately selling his catchy jingle to the makers of Taco Crunchies and also adding hypnotic undertones to it with the DNA sample so that only Hamster and Gretel would be affected. And he did this all because he grew up in a judgmental family of overachievers who didn't treat him with respect. He is a ruthless opportunist who will stop at nothing to prove himself greater than his own family, even if it means harming others solely for his own gain. That's how much of a love-to-hate guy he is. I also liked his introductory jingle, including the joke about the costume being a bit on the nose, because the joke is that his costume is literally a green worm suit with a giant ear around his neck.
I am
the Earworm.
Okay, costume's a little on the nose.
It's kind of on the nose.
And then there's the scenes with Dave and Carolina arguing about the lyrics to their romantic song. Even if those moments are very short, it still shows very well how much they care for each other, especially the ending. That's how much I love the parents in the Dwampyverse shows, except for Doofenshmirtz's parents, and I wish more cartoon parents were like this. 4 other moments I liked here. There's the Veronica Hill news reports. The first one, she interrupts Kevin's terrible choice in music in the minivan with a special report that is far beneath her pay grade, and then follows it up with the actual report about the first incident at the donut shop. This one I liked because, 1, well, it's Veronica Hill. What do you expect? She's like the Kent Brockman of Hamster and Gretel. And 2, this implies that she's a responsible news anchor woman, and she has other news better to report than this, yet she has to talk about it anyway. The other one has Veronica inexplicably interrupting a Saturday morning cartoon that Kevin and Fred are watching, which is the anime Yuko Cheerleading Warrior Attack 7 as established in Cheer Cheer Bang Bang. She interrupts it with a special report because clearly someone at the network hates her, and then proceeds to report about the incident at the dry cleaners. She also says the little blonde girl and her stoic hedgehog were seen flying away, not unlike her once illustrious career. My guess is probably that the head of the network was probably gonna fire her if she didn't report this one right away. Going back earlier, one of the episode's funniest moments for me was when Gretel asks Hamster if they robbed a donut shop the first night, and Hamster replies, "No, but I had a dream about a giant snake, probably 'cause I'm a hamster."
So, did you and Hamster rob a donut shop last night?
Why would we rob a donut shop? Hey, Hamster, did we rob a donut shop last night?
No, but I had a dream about a giant snake, probably 'cause I'm a hamster.
Like, it also makes sense because Hamster actually got eaten by a snake in a previous episode, Close Shave, before he fought the elementary school's pet snake from inside and managed to escape. Later on, after Kevin becomes shocked upon seeing the hypnotized Hamster and Gretel robbing the bank as he and Fred are following them, Fred sarcastically says, I guess donuts are the gateway to a life of crime. It's funny because she meant it as a joke about escalation, a drastic increase in the intensity or seriousness of a conflict, cause in reality, eating or stealing sweet pastries such as donuts can be harmless at times, but here, Fred acts as if an innocent person consuming donuts would end up leading that person down the road to committing serious criminal activity, and she says it in a humorous manner.
No way! I can't believe it! They're really robbing a bank?
I guess donuts are the gateway to a life of crime.
What is going on?
But if I were to pick my favorite moment in the episode, it has to be the song It's a Big Big World. Like, I've already mentioned before about how the actual song It's a Small World can be very repetitive to the point that I can see how it can annoy some people who have been on the It's a Small World ride at the Disney parks. But contrary to what the Grant Gomez's thought about it earlier in the episode, I enjoyed it quite a lot as a parody of the real song. It's even better in the climax where Kevin and Fred get the idea to think of a worse jingle than the Earworm's Taco Crunchies mantra, and they ultimately sing this one to wear off the hypnosis inside Hamster and Gretel's eyes so they can defeat the earworm, and the police officers even join in.
It's a big world, not that song! That's the only earworm on the planet stronger than mine! Drop them to their doom! Drop them now! There's not much to discuss, cause we know that it's a big, big world!
As for the image scene transition, it kinda creeped me out a little bit. This one is supposed to show Hamster and Gretel with their hypnotized faces, including the blue and white swirling eyes, but I felt a little haunted by the slow, distorted music and the hypnotized mugshots. Animation-wise, it's decent. Synergy provided the animation on this episode, and aside from the usual stuff I like about Synergy's work, some of my other positives include that the Taco Crunchies commercial has very vibrant colors and some generic yet cute designs for the taco mascots with stick arms and legs and simple chibi-like faces, and the rosy cheeks make them remind me a little of Pikachu from Pokemon. The backgrounds and animatronic designs for the It's a Big Big World ride look great and pay homage to the real Disney ride very well, and the earworm's hideout, despite looking mostly empty and abandoned, makes a decent villain lair with the dark environment prior to his reveal and the muted colors. But like usual, the animation isn't without its flaws. In this episode, the line art can still sometimes be inconsistent in terms of the weight and thickness. Some shots have thin lines on the characters, while some others can get thicker. During the earworm's backstory, Gretel is wearing her mask while the earworm is brushing her hair, but in the next shot, as he is putting the loose hair in a bag, Gretel's mask disappears. I mean, it's not like she's showing her secret identity to him even by accident, so the mask should still be there. Then again, it's nothing more than a goof. And Kevin doesn't really move his head back and forth when he says, "Yeah, I guess." Like, it's in the same position, and I kinda wish they made his head move a little more at that part to show more expression while he's saying that. Another animation error occurs while Kevin is driving Gretel to school after the first Taco Crunchies mantra, where his scleras, the whites of his eyes, are shown to be uncolored for a split second. It's a literal blink and you'll miss it moment, so you may be out of luck trying to catch it unless you pause the episode and try to scan the frames. So with all that said and done, this makes for another solid episode of the series. But that reminds me, since Hamster and Gretel were kinda painted by the victims who had their stuff stolen at night and the police as quote-unquote criminals due to the two being hypnotized by the earworm until Kevin tells the police about the situation, that's nothing compared to what's coming up in a few episodes. And if you want to know my full thoughts on one of those particular segments of that episode, oh, don't you worry. I'm just saving it all up for then when I come face to face with my most loathed character in the show.
Welcome to Reputation Assassination 101.
Alright, so now we are going to end this all off with our roller coaster rating. I give Friday Night Fright 8.5 plumber animatronic roller coasters out of 10 because I love the dynamic between Fred and Hiromi. There are a bunch of funny moments here and there, and it also has one of the best sequences that Snipple has ever done for the show, although their animation isn't perfect still. And then for the Earworm, I give it 8.5 roller coasters full of Taco Crunchies cereal out of 10, as it has some good moments, good humor, a funny villain, and a good parody song. So, in total, this episode gets 8.5 roller coasters out of 10, and it's another episode that I look forward to watching again in the future. And that is all that I'm here to talk about today, so thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Danville Discussion. As for me, you can find me on my Facebook page at Real Caleb Dirksen, on my Tumblr and TikTok pages at Caleb Dirksen2 with the number 2 at the end and all in lowercase, on Instagram at Caleb.Dirksen for my main page, or at Caleb Flynn Fletcher for my alternate page, on Threads at Caleb.Dirksen, on DeviantArt at Caleb Dirksen20, on Blue Sky at CalebDirksen2.bsky.social, and on Reddit at effective_factor_328. You can also add me on Discord by entering the username Caleb Reviews, all in one word and all in lowercase. You can also find me on YouTube. All you have to do is just search for Caleb Dirksen and look for the icon of me as a soldier, of course being Captain Toonland. And if you want to support my content and get some great rewards, including getting access to new episodes of this podcast 1 to 2 days early, then you can join me at patreon.com/Caleb Dirksen. Special thanks to all my followers or supporters on Patreon, including Kalela Shaw, Sue Friend, Brock Clifton Friend, Pandal, and my free patrons Gilbert Gann, Alec the Video Maker, Juan Almendarez, Ronnie Whitfield, Matheson Mullen, Susan Thagard, Nicholas Cangeli, Encarni Dominguez, Fran Garcia, and Ritaj Alameri. It really means a lot to me. As for this podcast, we are available to listen on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Audible, Good Pods, YouTube Music, iHeartRadio, CastBox, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Spotify, and you can also find us on Spotify for Creators by using your Apple or Android device, or going on the web at anchor.fm/Caleb-Dirksen, and it'll take you directly to the Danville discussion page on Spotify for Creators. If you like what you've been listening to and you like to help us get discovered, then go out there and please hit that subscribe button on the podcast page. Please rate and review this show with 5 stars on Apple Podcasts or any other podcast service, and please tell your friends about it. That would be just wonderful if you could do so. And if you are watching this on YouTube or listening to this on YouTube Music, then click that like button and leave us a little comment with your thoughts on this episode of Hamster and Gretel. And by the way, you can also share your feedback or ask some questions any other way, including sending us an email at danvillediscussion@gmail.com with either the Danville discussion or the episode topic in the subject line. Join us next time, and I'm going to take a look at episode 13 of Hamster and Gretel with a mammoth problem and the Bantam of the Elementary School Light Opera. Tune in next time for the newest episode of the Danville discussion with all things related to Phineas and Ferb and beyond. And with that said, thank you guys so much for listening, and until next time, this is Caleb, over and out. This podcast was created strictly and only for entertainment and information purposes. It is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company, Disney Television Animation, or their affiliates. All and any names, images, clips, sounds, or other items related to Phineas and Ferb, Milo Murphy's Law, Hamster and Gretel, and other Disney properties are trademarks and or copyrights of their respective holders. All original content from this podcast is the intellectual property of the Danville discussion and the host or hosts running the podcast unless otherwise noted.
I think this might be our cue to...
Good night.